I opened this up at the gym, and I couldn't stop smiling. I'm sure everybody was like, what is that guy so happy about? Pretty hilarious. Artist Journal, November 18th, 2022, Berlin. My name is Adrian Pocobelli. That guy. I am that guy. So, an awesome piece by Joe Rogan's dad. And it's great to be with him in the same piece. I mean, I was thinking to myself, like, I've been on this platform on Tezos for about a year. And Joe Rogan's dad is one of the first characters you kind of see in people's works and that you start to recognize. Like, he's kind of all over the place. And so here, a year later, it's a testament to this community that here a year later, you're in a piece by Joe Rogan's dad with Joe Rogan's dad. And that is too much fun. And you know what my favorite part of this piece was right here. A tribute to our friend, Pocobelli. So, yes, thank you. It's great, and isn't it fun? Again, digital friendship here, this digital friendship that we have, and I'm sure some of us will see each other in real life, but yeah, a testament to this community. So a massive shout out to Joe Rogan's dad. Thank you. And actually, we have a little bit of I actually brought it up here. This is what it's based on, the original movie poster. So you can see it here. So quite clearly, I'll show you what I thought it was based on, actually original. I thought it was a David Bowie portrait because you kind of see the tilt here and the tilt in Joe Rogan's dad's head too. And then you see the suit, which often Bowie is portrayed with, or that he often wears. So anyways, that's what I thought it was at first. So I'm actually glad he put the reference. Continuing on, a big shout out to Shilly the Kid for a purchase of 30 Tezos on this Raphael Madonna with the infrared gray. I love that infrared gray. Lightroom, they have an infrared gray, they call it. And yeah, that's how you got that. I was super happy with how the gray and the black really turned out there. So thrilling, a very warm gray. So thank you for that, Shilly the Kid. That always helps make the day. A couple of comments. So remember this guy? And I didn't know I thought it was like, is this a He-Man villain or something? Runetoon, once again to the rescue. The mask is referencing the guitarist from the band Slipknot. So there you go. So more music, more everything. And also Runetoon was highlighting how Artyom Pronin, how the mixed media piece, that chair with the painting and I think the rocks or something. Yeah. So it's very inspiring to see someone effortlessly seam together mediums like that. I agree. It all did kind of really meld together quite well. And Rada, collecting from the spotlights. So this is great. So I'm glad that this show can help get people's art out there and for people to see it in a really easily consumable way. You know, when I think of my kind of like the person I'm talking to, in a weird way, I feel like I'm talking to a traditional art collector that doesn't know anything about Tezos. That's almost how I kind of frame it in my head to some degree. Among other contexts, you know, we're also a bunch of artists talking with other artists, but that's one of the kind of ways I see perspectives I have when I'm building this show. Huge shout out to Ilay again for putting the timestamps. So this is super helpful. And I thought this was hilarious. Adrian's mom on the record, read charitable donations. So mom is in the timestamps. If you want to see that part, just go to the start of episode 93. And I would be remiss if I didn't mention this. Charles AI has raised 8,000 euros for Lawyers Without Borders. So big congrats to Charles AI. That's awesome. And it's kind of a fun charity to think about because there's probably, like, we've all almost had, you know, encounters where you need a lawyer, whether it's, you know, buying a house or whatever the case is. Moving into an apartment is often the most often used case. And yeah, so 8,000 euros for people, you know, in poor countries, probably there are a lot of people that need lawyers, you know, so very cool charity. Lorna Mills posted this, and this really was impressive. She was visiting Roddy Tooth's studio, and I was just taken aback by all these awesome canvases with pixelation on it. It looks like it's inkjet, right? It looks like it's inkjet. Theoretically, it could be screen print. And it just totally reminds me of Sigmar Polka. I think we would use bed sheets. To another thing you can do is like buy like to stretch on stretcher bars instead of canvas. Another thing you can do is like go to the materials store and then get some thick material and then stretch that. So this kind of reminded me of this. And I was just thinking, like, you could imagine if you just use this as your foundation. Like, for all I know, these are the works. But imagine if you just use this as a foundation to paint on. So you do someone's portrait, but you have the pixelation in the background. Fun to think about, and think of the immediate contrast you get of that kind of hard pixelation with brushwork and everything. Could make some stunning results. So anyways, just very cool to see that. Philos.eth brought up a very, I think, topical and interesting tweet here. Yesterday, I had fun picking up some beautiful items from selected NFT collections on Polygon. Unlike ETH, on Poly, I don't buy to flip or to make profits. I buy stuff I like from committed artists. It's like collecting cards. Sounds like Tezos. And this also is something we've been mentioning. It's kind of like card collecting, buying trading cards, comics, all of it, stamps, all of which I have done in the past, actually. So the reason I mention this is Polygon, because I think it's quite overlooked, and I'm guilty as anybody of overlooking Polygon. Probably the bias comes from, being on OpenSea, and all your Polygon NFTs are basically worthless. At least that was my experience. I'm sure there are valuable ones, especially now. Because now you have Nike on Monday announced they're going to be on Polygon. You have Reddit, which was the first to announce like a couple of weeks ago or whenever that was, that they're going to use Polygon for NFTs. And you have Instagram, as far as I understand, that is also going to use Polygon. So I just think it's something worth keeping in our head that perhaps the situation is evolving on the front of Polygon. And maybe, just maybe, you have in the back of your head, well, if I was to create a collection on Polygon, what would it look like? That's the sort of question maybe I've started to ask myself. And I don't know what that looks like, but it's kind of a fun question to ask yourself. So this is pretty wild, this tweet here. So, shut the front door. This is insane. A system to decode visual stimuli from brain recordings. Okay, so you're saying in 10 years it'll be thought to image. So this is almost making AI look like old-fashioned, amazingly. So here is the visual stimulus. So this is how I understand this, anyways, if I understand it right. So you see the giraffe. So let's say I'm the subject. I look at the giraffe, then they read my brainwaves, and then they reconstruct from the brainwaves this image. I mean, that is incredible if that's what's going on here. It's remarkable how similar these images are. So, and like all of them, it's not like any of them were like completely off. A building is a building, a bathroom is a bathroom, a fire engine is a fire engine, baseball is baseball. Pretty remarkable stuff. So, gets you thinking. Joshua Dechter. I just kind of thought this was worth bringing up because we discuss many things here in our digital salon. And this is, I think, an interesting comment. I've never understood why there is so much focus on self-expression in art, because I actually agree. Like, at least, and people make art for different reasons, right? So, and that's fine. And if it's self-expression is your thing, then self-expression is your thing. But say like that work, that Raphael Madonna, like it looks like a work by me, but there's not a whole bunch of, I guess it's got my personality, but not really. Like people have commented to me before that, there's not a lot of you in your work in terms of just like self-expression. And this is the kind of definition that we often hear. And there's nothing wrong with it. But like if you're in high school or, it's almost like your classic definition of what is art. It's self-expression. And so Joshua Dechter is calling that into question. And I think I kind of agree with that sentiment, and I thought it was just worth mentioning, something to ponder. Give Walk some support. He's trying to get on Super Rare, and I think we know that he's earned it. Please, my dear friends, follow me on Super Rare. Maybe one day I'll be a creator. So right now he is a collector on Super Rare. I'm sure it helps to have followers, so give him a follow on your Super Rare account. And here's Walk in the Studio. So if we're wondering how he's doing his stunning spray paint works, it looks like there's a lot of work going on here. Okay, continuing on, Matias LaPlata. So Arthropo did another drop yesterday with Sumi Reusi, and I think they have one more today. They put out 5, and I think they did really well. I think they sold out of the gloom tubes. If not, they're very close. And so anyways, check out what they're doing. Matias LaPlata is going to put out some new work, because we haven't seen a ton from him recently, and it looks like classic Matias LaPlata, where it's a little disturbing, right? So hilarious and provocative and interesting. Look at the brushwork here on this dress. It's reminiscent of Rat Cloaksy a little bit, isn't it? That Microsoft Paint sort of gradation brushwork. So that's something to look forward to. A new artist, Uze Kopu, I think maybe Turkish, I'd guess from the name, but who knows. Aftermath the Mayhem. So this is a digital freehand drawing. This is on Super Rare. It's a massive file, 9,822 pixels by 9,822 pixels. And here's the work. So this is just a freehand kind of drawing digitally. And so I thought that was kind of a head-turning work. And here's other work, and it's interesting. This artist put some physical works on Super Rare, which is not the most common thing to see, is it? And so Paranoia, I believe I brought this up. So this is, I think, pastel. Let's actually quickly check. Pastel on canvas. A pretty nice work, I'd say. Paranoia. So not something you see every day on Super Rare. This is ballpoint pen drawing, okay? Aftermath, the hidden ones. So just an interesting artist as we kind of survey the landscape here. Also a new work by Paper Crane, and Paper Crane's market is very strong, as we're going to see here. I think you had to offer between 45 and 55 Tezos just to get one. It's an edition of 15. And we saw Paper Crane just yesterday, I think. It was Rich Poole, maybe, is the person that Paper Crane collaborated with that awesome FX hash with all the rivers and the waterfalls and everything. And this is kind of an interesting thing. It brought up, Joe Rogan's dad has Twitter Spaces every so often, and it made me think of Joe Rogan's dad when he was talking about Die with the Most Likes kind of career trajectory, where he started on Tezos, built up a bit of a following. Then he put out a couple of series on FX Hash, and then got onto Super Rare, and then kind of blew up. And you're almost seeing a similar trajectory, I would argue, with Paper Crane. Put out a FX Hash thing, and it's starting to grow. Some collaborations, with Louis Osborne. So yeah, so here you see it, between 45 and 55. Now it costs you 115 for one of these editions, and it's looking pretty good over here from Paper Crane. I remember this. This might have been the first one that we showed, but yeah, I mean, they're pretty cool, good-looking works. That's a nice one, The Wanderer. So this was a great work. I really like this. This is by EdgeQ. You still got 4 left. I was looking at, because they're sold out, and I was like, can you still get one? I like the simplicity of this work. So again, using the trading card collector case as a framing device and putting all his favorite things inside of that. And I thought it was just kind of a nice poetic work and kind of a nice solution there. And that's exactly what it says. A simple drawing, art for the sake of art. I'd like to pick one of these up. There's something just very kind of real and authentic and kind of true about this work. Just like someone really just putting themselves out there. I saw this on Twitter yesterday, and I think I've seen this person's work before, like as I was going from collection to collection early on, but it's been a while since I've seen this work. Really nice kind of pixel. Is this pixel art? Kind of digital? I don't know what it is. Knitwear Expo 1985, fashionable comfort at an affordable price from Hans Strubel Waffle. Only an edition of 5, and you can get it for 10. It's tempting to pick that up. Kid sister of Authentic Waffle. So probably a woman artist here, and actually some pretty nice work here. Here's another sweater And there's something else I want to mention on this, actually. So you can still buy it, right? There's one for 10 Tezos from Bridget, New York City. I've bought a few works from Bridget, New York City, where there's like one left. And so, what I thought? I was like, the flippers, they do provide a service too, as annoying as they can be for some artists, because, if they're getting in between, buying up all the works of an artist first and then reselling at a higher price, the flipper gets all the money in between. So it's annoying on that side. They're market makers. On the other hand, they're helping, they do actually provide some liquidity in the market. So if I want to buy this, it's like, okay, I can buy it at a reasonable price and it's available. So there is kind of two sides to the whole flipper thing. And they do like, hey, if you're an artist and you can have your work sell out in 2 minutes because flippers are buying it, worse things could happen, right? So just interesting kind of thought there. A DeoPixel with a pixel artwork, and I thought this was quite nice. Again, this looks like digital art made with a square brush. This is pixel art. It looks like they're using an Apple Pencil, which is a technique I like to use with the square brush, just to give it that weird. You can kind of see it here, that interesting contrast of kind of the square. And then, because pixel art, you generally think of as someone almost clicking with a mouse. And so it's fun to use like a stylus. And here's a work by Ondi, Mark Rothko, pixelated Mark Rothkos. And of course, we can recognize this. We recognize this. I'm sure these iconic paintings by Mark Rothko. This on Foundation, miniaturized and pixelated Rothkos by Ondi, who watches this program from time to time. So big shout out to Ondi, made some hilarious little memes. JNK, highlighting a pixel artist. And sometimes these gaming pixel artists kind of don't get their due. So props to JNK. This is John Trafford Art is the artist here. And JNK is just kind of highlighting, like, look at how good this is. And there's a lot to be said. We'd kind of take it for granted oftentimes, these kind of video game pixel artists, but really there's a real artistry here. Okay, like you look at every little thing here. These are decisions. This isn't just like, as far as I understand, this isn't just putting something into, a program and then hitting, rasterize or whatever you press, So interesting pixel artist. A new work by Ed Marola. And Ed's putting out ever since I started this, I just regularly see work by Ed Marola every day. He must be putting in 6 to 8 hours at least a day. And you're seeing the results because there's so much subtlety. There's so much going on in an Ed Marola work these days. You see the purple, maybe you can't see that purple layer that's going across, so kind of pixels going up. There's others. The interesting treatment of the leaves of the tree. And then this looks like a brush of some kind that's being dragged to make the leaves. And there's someone smoking in the tree. And then you see the different leaves of what looks like other trees, but maybe they're clouds. It looks like using a different brush. There is so much going on in this work. And so Ed Marola continues to turn the head. Climb a Tree, available for 4 Tezos, edition of 10. Sabato's got a new work. And this is an interesting one. It almost looks like a jail here or something, but I'm not sure. And the kind of mysterious work with that red background. And then you got some candles that look like a ritual, pixel art, pixelated, So another kind of series by Sabato, Executive Contemplation Chamber, The Offshore Firm, Volume 2, available for 4.67, edition of 25. And continuing on, Villain Mask, who I hadn't heard of either, another kind of Twitter discovery. Doesn't this just look like something off the label of some kind of Chinese food out of a Chinese grocery store? I assume it's Villain Mask's work. Hungry Thursday, maybe it is off a label. It's quite a remarkable piece here. Well, I guess we'll just have to assume it's from Villain Mask. Here is Villain Mask's work, Dream Boy from Thailand. And here is the work. So kind of reminiscent, but not really, of that other work. So maybe he was just tweeting out an image. Interesting artist. Not sure what to make of this in terms of what it is. It almost looks like physical And yeah, so anyways, you can check it out, Villain Mask. We have still a ton to get through here. Uxine has a new work. And again, just kind of like Ed Marola, putting out work daily here and selling, by the way. Already a bid for 0.22. Like, this is how you do it. This is how you survive off of being an artist and create a collector base and show people you're serious. So it's pretty cool. And what is this called? I think getting high on engagement. So getting his serotonin or whatever into what looks like a crash test dummy and a surveillance camera. It's got it all. And that beautiful matte black background. And not an infrared gray, but a very nice matte black background. So that is cool. Available on Foundation. And here are a couple of works by Bolin. Digital collage. Now, this just kind of turned my head. It almost looks like AI when you look at the couch here, like especially in here. So kind of interesting, but then you look here and it almost looks like an oil painting. So not sure how this is all being constructed. Digital collage, 1 of 1, available for only 11 Tezos. Pretty reasonable. Here's another one. This one sold Mythical Creatures, and this is like collage. And here it's, what does Bolin call it? Digital collage prescribed in oil. So you can, I never understand what that means, but maybe we see oil here. Again, this almost looks like AI though. So just an interesting kind of collage and painting and representation, Mythical Creatures. And kind of reminiscent, and I think we've looked at this before, of One Don't Knows, but if you are new to the program, One Don't Knows is a pretty cool collage artist, basically uses imagery from previous paintings, often 17th, 18th, 19th century paintings, and remixes them to make new paintings, reshuffles the deck. As we were mentioning on an earlier episode, School of Art painting class, really, really cool. So just while we're in collage, I had to mention One Don't Knows, and here you can see all the work, and it looks great. One Don't Knows has done fabulously on Super Rare. Now on Super Rare, still puts out work on Tezos once in a while and has a really smart Twitter feed. He's blown up, really, and his Twitter is just very smart. There's a lot to learn from that Twitter feed. Rustic digital art with this mysterious painting, The Man Who Ate Too Much Cheddar and Bacon, Escalona 2022. So very strange painting. I mean, it looks like a person here that has a hand for a head and whose hand is turning into cheese and perhaps some bacon there. So interesting, almost like a curved background like you'd find in a Francis Bacon work. So I have no idea what's going on here, but it's really interestingly executed. And that's why I'm showing this. Like, look at that, the hand, the painting, the digital painting at work here. More experimentation and super interesting. Speaking of experimentation, Ilya Shkipin with another combination of AI and painting with this erotic series here. And so anyways, just a lot going on. It's always interesting, this tension here with the digital brush marks. We saw it in Tres Rodinks, where you start getting like the texture. And how do we feel about that when we see texture in a digital work, right? So it's just kind of a fun, interesting thing. And we see that in spades here in Unspiritual 10. We've been looking at Delta Sauce. I think we looked one show, and I think it was these two works here. And there's a couple of things I just want to point out here. First of all, they have a new work, Delta Sauce, and they are AI and digital editing, okay, to create artwork inspired by my love of sculpting and nostalgia. So this is the new work. Okay, reserve of 0.5. So cool artist, kind of reminiscent of Charles AI a little bit, but instead of these massive rooms with like the sky for a ceiling, kind of these interiors. But what's similar is the fact that there's these kind of like spaces, and they also have these kind of like a matte feeling to it, right? They're not shiny. There's a very matte look to it. And look at this. Sold. It's like all sold out. 0.9, 0.15, 0.95. So this person is doing very well too. It just goes to show that in AI, if you can kind of get your little thing, and you see it's fairly recent. Like, you don't have to go too far back where it's like totally different, and this person is just feeling their way. And then once it hits, they hit on this work here. I think these are the ones we're looking at. and then boom. And then you just blew up on Twitter, and here this person is making bank, and they're like probably a major AI artist right now on Twitter. Isn't that interesting, right? So it's kind of all about just hitting your thing. Alicio is getting there, isn't he? Or like maybe he's already there. Look at this. Marine still life is now available. I'm thinking this must be Midjourney version 4, because these are stunning still lives. They almost look like surrealist. Like, look at this. Look at this. And the stunning amount of detail. I mean, this is a real stunning work of art, in my opinion. The color is fantastic. So AI, this you can buy for 50, AI painting. So if I was Clown Vamp, who's all over these AI one of ones, I would be buying this, like 50 Tezos. Very, very nice work from Alicio Lagreca. I think Alicio watches this program once in a while, so shout out to him. I think he comments on Twitter and gives shout outs to the show, so thank you. Clown Vamp. So speaking of Clown Vamp, here are some of the AI-assisted one of ones. So this is Nocturnal Lady, Gilded Boy. As we survey the landscape here, Never Gonna Give You Up by Num1 Crush. Almost looks like Bowie, but must be the singer of Never Gonna Give You Up. And Autumn Schmutman by Crypto Hamster. Almost looks like painting here. So interesting. AI-assisted. So maybe these aren't all raw AI. Here's some work by Ilay, and this is the one. Look at this. So AI art by Ilay, our timestamp keeper there for the last couple of episodes. And yeah, looking good, Ilay. It's looking very good. So we'll see when she mints these things. But yeah, so you see, playing with the prism. So, and you just see the development that Delta, what's the name? Delta Sauce made. So, I mean, if Ilay just keeps at it here, I mean, it's looking good. It's looking very good. So shout out to Ilay. And also here, noart_xy. So this is another issue I wanted to bring up here as we kind of wrap up here, which is the double-edged sword of being an AI artist. We've been discussing as the Doc T, I think was the name, and his Rune Tune, and this so-called democratization, but which we more just like the shortcut is what I would almost be tempted to call it, that AI art can give to say, we're using the example of the accountant, who for 20 years has been an accountant, and now with a few hours put in, can start to make some, what we would call persuasive art using AI. Now, we're going to go through a few artists that we've never seen before, and I think this is the double-edged sordidness of this situation, which is the barriers to entry allow it. So your competition, like if you're an AI artist and you start to achieve success, I think you're going to have a ton of competition that you're going to have to constantly fight off because of the barrier to entry. We can even see it with Delta Sauce, and all of a sudden maybe Charles AI might go, oh, okay. You see what I'm saying? Like there's the barrier to entry is lower, so it's going to be hard, I think, for AI artists to kind of fend off the competition, because we're going to see a bunch. Like, look at this. This is starting to look pretty good, right? Look at the atmosphere. And what was the name of that artist? noart_xy. And then Varya has a new piece, kind of a slightly different style, but the same subject matter of the flowers in the car. And kind of an interesting way of dealing with, like, this is kind of a reflection of her, this is her art. Because look, still waking up in different cities from which I am leaving the same day. It's both fun and difficult at the same time. So it's like, it's really kind of just helping tell her story, and her life is being reflected in her art. Varya.jpg, Breeze Priest, the Band-Aid. So just another artist we've never heard of here. And you see the AI eyes. And is my Band-Aid on straight? That's not a Band-Aid, bro. So whatever is going on over here. So, and then you see the hands, these AI hands, the AI eyes. And again, this is not a bug, it's a feature. And it took me, again, if you go to those early episodes, it took me a little bit to understand that, but that's why we look at so many and why we have this discussion. Here's another artist I've never seen before, Destiny K, with some pretty impressive results. Midjourney V4. Okay, so this new Midjourney, like, what is V5 and V6 going to do? And again, what does that do to AI artists who are at the top now? And I think it maybe puts the key is maybe it puts the value on the concept. Say Strange Thing with his fashion in Renaissance settings, AI fashion in Renaissance settings, maybe Charles AI with these kind of big rooms with the sky as the ceiling and this sort of thing. Those interiors by Delta Sauce. You got to have your thing. Red Rum with his look. So a Sleepyhead is the name of this artist. Another artist we've never heard before with some fairly impressive looking AI art. And continuing on. Okay, so there's our AI tour. Now, just as we wrap up, Quilanina with a physical work selling as an NFT. And look at that rainbow poncho. And then all the symbolism. You got the snake, you got the eagle. I mean, that sounds like almost like a Greek myth. That's like Zeus, I think, at the start of the Iliad. In fact, where the eagle and the snake, I think the eagle eats the snake, or I can't remember what happens. There's that very famous statue. God, what is it even called? It's in the Vatican. Oh, are we going to be able to do this as we wrap up here? Vatican statue, the name of the priest, and the snakes are the Laocoon. Yeah, so that's what this is about. Is actually the snake comes and I'm not sure what happens. It looks like it's strangling the kids. And this was kind of an omen. But often in Greek myth, so this is before the Iliad, or this is while the Iliad's starting, if I remember right. Anyways, we'll go deeper into this stuff in another episode. But just kind of that's a pretty oblique reference there, guys. But why not? There's some Laocoon for you. It's in the Vatican. Okay. Greco also has a physical work, Birth, an acrylic canvas painting, and he sold this as an edition of 5, so not selling the work itself, the physical work, and you can see the texture. It's great. I love how people are working multimedia here, and I think it's just exciting. So this sold out within 5 or 10 minutes here. Look, listed at 32, and the 3 sold at till 36, and then at a higher price 10 minutes later. Edition of 5, now you got to spend 69, and that, my friends, is your show. Unless something crazy happens, have a great weekend. If I don't see you before, have a great weekend. Thank you once again. Thank you once again for watching as we get our situation figured out here.